And then when I became big people now, because you're 18 and you're big people, so you're either going clubbing or you're going to a gospel concert. And I was going to the gospel concert with my beehive and my pack-hole jumper and my God. And me and my friend Michelle, my best friend's called Michelle, by the way, we used to go to the Well.
The Well, for me, was like the creme de la creme of local events. It was the event where you knew that there was going to be a high level of excellence, a high level of singing quality, a high level of musicality. It was top musicians, top singers. You knew you were going to have a good evening. And so I always look forward to going to the Well and, you know, welcome to the welcome. Like, yeah, I would look forward to going to that event each time it was on.
This is 1992, 91, 92. No social media, just people travelling. You know, I think Steve travelled from Derby until he started living in Birmingham. And we just were working this thing. And initially, you imagine we're taking gospel music, or this is how it was seen, into the highways and the byways. This is how we saw it. But sadly, the church saw us as taking gospel music out of church. And there was some resistance to that. So a lot of people took a lot of time over the first, say, 6 months before they started coming out. So you can imagine library theatre as it was, and library theatre was like a 200-seater space, massive, well, really big stage, and totally different from anything that we were doing in church in terms of presentation. So you imagine people had to turn up on time. We were setting up from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the PA company would come in the afternoon. We were doing sound checks. We were organising dress codes. And then setting out itineraries in terms of curry goat and rice in the afternoon with some food, refreshments, and then also starting the concert bang on at 7:30. And we're using lighting and production. It was the first of its kind.
But the Well was a pivotal moment, I think, in Midland's gospel, because that's where young black Christians, regardless of your church, met regularly to hear good music.
And it started a lot of like gospel artists. That The Well started a lot of bands on their journey.
Beresford Dawkins and The Well.
Yeah, The Well was fantastic.
My goodness. Beres had this really great vision for having regular concerts. I think it was once a month. And he wanted a host band. So Beres said to me, you know, come, I want to do something. So come along and see if you want to be part of the group. What I didn't realise was that it was an audition. And when I found out, I was like, I don't do auditions.
We had to audition for The Well. So that was at Nechel's Church in Birmingham. Nechel's Church Got a Prophecy. And I just went, I think that was my first real audition for anything. That was Beresford was there, and his partner at the time was Del White. And I auditioned, and for some reason, they picked me to play for The Well. It was myself, it was Ray Prince, Trevor Prince, Godfrey Gale, Delroy Hutchinson, Maxine Brooks, and Carlton Powell, Benjamin Hutchinson as well. And we were the band.
Yeah, my involvement in The Well came about pretty much because of the relationship I had with Ray Prince, Trevor Prince, and that kind of whole prophecy circle. And obviously, because Beres was heading it up, it kind of all kind of fell into place the musicians would have come from the Church God of Prophecy. So that was my kind of introduction into the well at that time. And the well, for me, was the reason that my playing ability and my experience came on leaps and bounds. We would be learning songs at quite a rapid rate and kind of doing shows back to back at that time. So yeah, they were really good times, really great band, some really good memories.
Then the opportunity came to play for the Well. I was playing for Mass Choir at the time, and the Well was happening. So this is the early 90s happening, and the Well was another gospel platform, but it wasn't in the traditional church setting. So it was in a theatre, or it was in the rec centre, which was in Small Heath. So these were venues outside of the traditional church walls, and also it were the traditional or standard Church of God of Prophecy audience. It was mixed, so you'd have SDA, you'd have Assembly of Firstborn, you'd have all the independent churches, you'd have Newty, and you'd have Prophecy all in one building. So it was a different vibe altogether. But with that, you had the other gospel artists from all those churches who would have the opportunity to perform, and I had the opportunity to play for the Well. I think after Vindale had stopped, or I think he left, and I was asked to come in, and I did the Well for some years, good few years. And with that, you know, again, Beres gave us the opportunity. We did the Billy and Sarah Gaines tour. We did, I think we did Hezekiah Walker. We supported Fred Hammond, Norton Bronson choir when it came out. We did a lot. So again, it was another, probably a step up in regards to requirements in playing, because you was playing with other people. The Well brought in other artists, so we were the house bands, people like LCGC, people from Manchester. You'd have Carla Hales. You'd have, we did a showcase when it was Soul Stirring, the album that Nicky Brown wrote, a wonderful album. And we were the house band, and I think Divine was on it, Paul Lee, the Scoffrey Sisters we played for. So, you know, it was a melting pot for some wonderful gospel artists in the Midlands and also around the country, the wider country, who used the Well as a platform to perform. And that was a nice experience to play there.
When Beresford Dawkins came across and said he wanted us to sing at the Well, it's like, wow, you know. And then he said we wanted us to be the last ones on, and he was like, nah, way. No.
Still don't get it. Well, we are last.
You know,
still don't get it.
And I think at that time was when I'd written.
Don't give up.
Was it Don't Give? Yeah, Don't Give Up.
Yeah, it was Don't Give Up. Yeah.
Don't give
Keep
up.
going, yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the original songs that we did on the night, right?
I remember it now too. Yeah.
It was a good night.
It was a good night.
Had parts to see.
It was a good night. Yeah.
So that was brilliant.
Definitely.
And then the Christmas Well. The Christmas Well, when he said, okay, he's having the Christmas Well.
Is that what we did? Have yourself.
Have yourself.
Well, I think we did Life.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's when we did Live.
These guys have got good memories,
Right,
now.
we did
Honestly.
Live. And the thing was, like...
both songs written by Jude,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, excellent.
Escoffreys were there as well.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. And like obviously the Escoffreys album to this day for me is one of my favourite albums.
Yeah.
Period. Right. But Berry said, yeah, they're going to be there, but they're going to be on before you. And like, we're going, what are you saying, Berry? Berry, you've gone off your head. You've gone off your head, man. Right. And like, I love this. I love the album. And like, this is no word of a lie, but you realise that. And this is not being negative, but some artists are great at recording.
produce a brilliant album.
But in terms
live.
of having something else that they bring in a live performance, they sounded exactly like they did on the album, and it was great. But when I heard that, I said, okay, you know, let's see what's going to happen. And we went on, and it was just like, it was just something else, man.
Because we had dance moves as well.
You can't remember that one.
I don't remember that.
What moves did you have? The part where you go, duh, 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 you do a music break, and we did some dance moves, and everybody went crazy. It was like, oh, we've got to do more dance moves.
What was interesting about the makeup of the show, that we put Christian comedy and music together. So we moved away from your traditional compare of a concert to having a Christian comedian. And everybody would remember Junior Simpson. He was a unique talent from the Kojic Church. So he would travel up from Luton and host the show. So he was the glue really that pulled everything together. So you would introduce the band, he would run jokes in between, have the audience in the palm of his hand, and close the show out as well. And that was the formula for the show. Christian comedian, gospel music.
People were scared. Musicians that you may have interviewed as part of this.
Paul Reid was always running and hiding.
Scared. Ian Reid, Paul Reid,
Ian Reid.
Ray Prince, the Prince brothers.
Yes.
When we used to appear on stage at the Well, they would scatter.
Yeah.
Because but people loved to be almost picked out, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that air of uncertainty and the mystique of am I going to be the one picked on tonight?
Yeah.
And it was always interesting when one or two would try to sort of, rival us, and then would put them in their place nicely. That was always gratifying, because getting up on stage and winging it, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. No. And even though I'd like to say we made it look natural,
it took some work, didn't it?
Performing didn't just happen on stage. We lived it.
Yeah.
And we took information on a daily basis. My dad was one of our greatest mentors without even realizing it. In our family, my mum and my dad, probably with many Caribbean families, were always arguing. My mum was the kind of mother that would argue and then end and leave it. My dad, however, he would carry on. But the way he carried on, to me, was hilarious. And Clive is a brilliant impression of this. Because my dad would go up and down in the way he mumbled, then he would talk to the wall or talk to himself and come back to the argument, something like this. So me tell you, so me now go do it, and you go tell me, say, you know want to do it? Come tell me, say me have to go to and tell me, say, me now go tell you, say, you go tell me your business. Come. Living in my house.
And that became a character for a while.
And absolutely. At 2 we living at this house. And either you go, and me go. And me now go.
They were hilarious. And so they would, I can't remember the school either that we used to go to. Was it Holt School, or was it different places where they used to have the event anyway? So I was going all the time and really trying to support, but it was getting a bit dry in it. So he reached out, we started to give ideas, and we'd have meetings and stuff. And as it happens, the only time I remember being on stage at the Well was with my choir, Audrey Mattis Chorale. So we did a little thing, and that was in town. That was, where the library is now. There was an area there we used to go to. I can't remember.
Like Adrian Bolt Hall.
I don't think we were actually in the conservatoire itself. It was the library theatre. So that's where it was more or less taking place, and that's when I remember it the most hype that it could be, because it was quite a cute space. It wasn't massive. It was too big before that. So when he found that venue, that was really, really cool. I think it made a lot more sense. And there was like the house band, Godfrey and Dalroy. What were their name called?
Hutchinson
and Gale. Come on now, Sister Sophie. Hallelujah.
Delroy Hutchinson and Godfrey Gale. Whoa.
But Hutchinson and Gale, those guys deserve those mobiles. Those guys deserve more than mobiles. Because when I heard them sing at the well to me represented the elite of the West Midlands gospel scene.
I know back in the day, because I used to go to school with Delroy's sister-in-law, and I always felt like he looked like Bobby Brown back in the day, because I was a big Bobby Brown fan as well. So like, I'll be like, Bobby Brown, he sings gospel? He's going to laugh when he hears this.
I remember years ago, I watched a TV program, and it was called People Get Ready. And John Francis was one of the presenters at the time. And there was a choir called, I think it was Jubilant Voices. No, it wasn't Jubilant Voices. That was another brothers group. I can't remember the name of the choir, but there was a brother that sang in this choir. And the way he sang was just the way I feel about the way I sing. And there's a brother in this choir who was singing, and he was playing the part in this song of Jesus. He'll hate me for saying it, but his suit was a bit tight. A white suit at that, it was a bit tight, it was a bit small for him. But he sang. And I sat watching this on my television, and I looked at him and I says, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to sing with that brother. One of these days. I didn't know who he was. I said, one of these days I'm going to sing with that brother. And as God would have it, a few years later, Beresford Dawkins approached me with a view to joining a project that he'd started called The Well. And there was auditions taking place, and he called me and he says, would you get involved? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And so he got together a band of musicians and a band of singers, and it was amazing. He pulled together in the band, on keys it was my brother again, Clifton Hutchinson. There was Ian Reid on bass, amazing bassist. The king on drums, Ray Prince, and the late great Trevor Prince on guitar, amazing. And then singing, there was myself, there was Diane, who's now emigrated to America. I can't even remember her surname, her name has changed because of marriage. And there was Maxine Richards, and every so often, not on a regular basis, there was also Yvonne Kennedy. And there was another guy that was singing as well. He was brought in, and that was Godfrey Gale. Now, Godfrey Gale was the guy who was singing on that TV show. And I wouldn't tell him to his face, but I was very honoured and privileged to be working. That I felt that way, and I still do. He's my brother, man. He is my brother. I was privileged to sing with him in the same group. But we sang, Neville Forbes as well. Neville Forbes was involved, and he was amazing singer. And we did The Well for a number of years, and then after a little while, that disbanded. But such was the relationship and friendship that was forged between Godfrey and I. We decided to start another duet. We call ourselves Hutchinson and Gale.
The standout well that I remember that's just come to mind was Hutchinson and Gale when they became a duo and sang at the Well. And Godfrey Gale and Delroy Hutchinson's voices were amazing. Again, I have to use that word. They were superb.
So we were backing vocals for the Well. I remember myself, Tony, we used to back Hutchinson and Gale, and Sabrina was part of the backing vocals as well. We went a number of different places doing that. So it's been incredible.
And then it brought us to a place where I thought, you know what, we should apply to see if we can get to a larger audience. And the only way we could do that was if we had some sort of record deal. And so Ty Scott, record label from the United States, they came over to the UK and were doing auditions to see if they could find some British talent to put onto their roster. And so they staged the concert. We had to pay an entry fee, which I totally understood because the place had to be paid for. But long story short, we did it, and then after the event, the Reverend Tyson and the Reverend Scott, who were both there, called Godfrey and I to one side and explained that they wanted to give us a record deal. And we were obviously happy and ecstatic about it. But then they said, if they were to sign us, that it would just be Godfrey and I, and everyone else in the group would have to be pushed to one side. So my brother, Trevor, Ray, and all of them. And right then and there, we said no, because we'd been on the journey together, and granted, Hutchinson and Gale was our names, and we were the faces of the group, so to speak. But we felt a commitment, and didn't think it would be right to just sort of kick everybody to one side for Ty Scott to then furnish us with their musicians and singers and what have you. Who knows, we might have done things differently with retrospect, but at the time it was the right decision for us. And I'm glad that we stuck to our guns. After that, I decided to apply to a competition that came up on GMTV, and it was called the GMTV Gospel Challenge. It was back in 2000 or 2001, something like that. And we submitted the application, and they were having heats all over the country, England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. And the heat that we had to sing at was staged at Aberdeen Street in Birmingham. And so we went there, we sang. Long story short, we won our heat. And then we had to go and perform again at another heat, and we won that. And it came down to 3 people from the whole country having to do a final on GMTV itself, and it was broadcast around the country. We went on, we met Pamela Anderson as a result, and she was a lovely lady. She wasn't the way that she portrays herself to be on telly, but that's another story. Yeah, she was lovely. And went on, we sang live on air, and then we left the studio and the votes were being counted for that competition throughout the week. And then we were invited back to sing with another group. It was Raymond Dyer and his group. We were the last 2 standing. And then finally we won the whole thing. And the prize was a contract with Integrity Music, and also a nomination for a MOBO. So we won a MOBO award. So we were invited to the Albert Hall to attend the MOBO Awards, and they wined and dined us, put on a limousine and hotel. It was lovely. We were in the company of 50 Cent, Diana Ross, George Benson, and announcement was made that the winner of Best New Gospel Newcomer was Hutchinson and Gale. So we won the MOBO, and went up on stage and was presented the award by the lead actor from East is East, because it was the big thing at the time. And took the award, and then we had to go behind stage to the media circus. We were being interviewed left, right and centre. And then when we were being interviewed by GMTV about gospel music, this man just came and threw his arms over our shoulders and decided to get involved in the conversation with us. And it was George Benson. Threw his arms over our shoulders and decided to give his contribution as to what he believed gospel music was. It was an amazing experience. And then it was time to leave, and so they says, Hutchinson Gale, are you ready to leave? And I said, yeah, it's time to go. And they radioed ahead for the limousine to be pulled up at the stage doors at the back. And we walked, and as we opened the door, the limousine pulled up. The door opened, and 50 Cent was stood to our right. He thought it was for him, and it wasn't. So we had to step back, and we stepped into the limousine, and we said, yeah, well, you know, when God favour you. So there you go. 50 Cent had to step back, and yeah, it was quite an experience. It was amazing. The not so amazing thing was what happened subsequent to winning the competition. So Integrity Music, the biggest label in terms of gospel music in the world at the time, they weren't forthcoming with the contract. We had to be chasing them. When the contract finally arrived, we realised that the wording of it wasn't suitable, and it wasn't going to benefit us in terms of making our music our livelihood. The percentages were just totally wrong that they were offering, and so we opted not to sign the contract. So instead, we decided to push ahead, and we recorded an album at our own cost. We did all the artwork, wrote the songs, recorded them at the studio with the help of Brian Allen, a brother from Erdington. Recorded it at his house, the whole album at his house, in his studio. And then Integrity said, "Oh yeah, that's good. Would you like a distribution deal?" And we said, "Yeah, by all means." And they took it on, but they didn't push the album, which was basically out of order. We didn't enjoy that. But the long story short was that the album was well received in a lot of the local churches, and we were able to take it around with us when we were singing.
We started to branch out, so it wasn't just Birmingham singers, it wasn't just Birmingham musicians. We started to go further up north, you know, and we had the likes of your Freddie Kofi's. I remember the first time Andrew Pierce came, and he was again another singer from New Testament, really added value to what we were doing. When Maxine Richards came as a songwriter, bringing her own songs, she, you know, again changed how we did things. Priscilla Jones changed things in terms of production, professionalism. I remember the first time we done Small Heath Choir with a guy called Tony Duke, who was a drummer, and also he played the trumpet, and he'd done some really great arrangements around Small Heath Gospel Choir. That was a massive thing. I remember Priscilla Jones introducing us to a group from Holland called Kefas, and again, Kefas were white European Dutch people, and when you close your eyes, they could have been, you know, from Richard Brunson's choir. They had that whole gospel sound down brilliantly.
We're at the Well. We've just been announced, and I made a statement to the audience, and I said to them, "I just discovered something. Right? My dad informed me about something."
I don't want to think about it.
This, for me, was probably one of the most hilarious Well moments that I shared with you. My dad was watching television, and I was watching the television as well, and he said to me, you know, sir, them start train monkey fi fight man war. And I'm watching TV, exactly, that was my expression. And I didn't think I heard him properly. And it meant the whole Well audience were like, that expression. And I said to my dad, I said, what? I said, yes, them train monkey fi fight man war. And I'm thinking to myself, is my dad pranking me? Is he, and so obviously I said, don't be silly, Dad, that don't make sense. And he got upset. No, me telling you, them train the monkey fi hold the gun and shoot fi fight the man war. And I said, Dad, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's it. And the more I objected to it, the angrier he got. And he was really serious. I said, Dad, you cannot give a monkey a gun to fight war for men. Me telling you, them train the monkey, give them the gun, hold the gun, fi shoot, fi fight the man, them war. I said, Dad, that's ridiculous. No, you don't tell me it's ridiculous. Me see on the television, on the news, what they call it guerrilla warfare. The whole place exploded.
And it's real.
And yes,
it's real.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely real.
And that was a Well moment for me that went down very well.
And I remember doing a massive event with a good friend of mine, Paul Gordon, Pastor Paul Gordon now, with an organisation we set up this organisation called Trinity Fellowship. And we brought our first American act in. So me as the Well, Paul, Trinity Fellowship, and we brought in Billy and Sarah Gaines. And at the time, Billy and Sarah Gaines were like an extraordinary duo. They were like the BB and CC Winans, but from up north in America. And that was, again, another shift in what we were doing. Wow, we could bring in American artists, and we brought them to the town hall. But not only to the town hall, we'd done a tour. So it was the first tour. We went to Manchester, London, and Birmingham. And again, that was another significant shift in terms of our growth and our understanding of how gospel music could be developed.
I sang at the Well. I did a competition, and it was you had to sing up and just sing a song in it. And it was me and Hazel Watson, and another singer that I don't remember because all I was thinking of is Hazel Watson. Yeah, and I won. And I think it was a sympathy vote because it's Hazel Watson and they hadn't heard me before. I won a CD. It was, what's its name? Yeah, Fred Hammond. Bless. That was not that one. I don't know.
There was this guy, his promotion company was called Miracle. And he basically approached me and said, look, I've got this opportunity to bring Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ. And at the time, I was quite a big Fred Hammond fan. And he said to me, look, let's arrange a deal. You promote the Birmingham end as the Well, and we'll bring Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ to Birmingham. And of course, that was our second American promotion underneath the banner of the Well with Miracle. So we started not only growing, we were collaborating with other promoters, which is quite a unique thing. So we're not only promoting, we're collaborating with other partners who add value. So they were able to bring Fred, and we said, okay, we'll showcase him in Birmingham. And Fred Hammond came, and I'm sure people will remember that concert. That was at Birmingham Town Hall. And that's where we heard Blessed for the first time. And I just remember that roof coming off in Birmingham Town Hall. It was amazing. And you could just hear the chorus of Blessed, Blessed. You just hear it rippling. And again, major success. There was probably, not far off 1,100 people in Birmingham Town Hall. Now, at that time, commissioned, no Fred. Fred had left commissioned. So it was the original guys, minus Fred. And I never thought I could pull this off. I never thought it was going to happen. And I just remember it really being challenging on every level, except for the band. So what I'd agreed and arranged with Commission, who didn't trust the British band, they said, look, I said, I'm happy to do this event, but I'm not going to pay for a band. In fact, we'll put a British band together. And to be honest, they thought I was losing my mind. They thought I was being a bit cheeky, for want of a better term. They thought I was out of order. But anyway, we discussed it and discussed it and discussed it. And they said, I tell you what, we'll come with backing track. So I said, I tell you what, come with backing track, not a problem. But if the band doesn't, and we'll rehearse the band, and if the band doesn't cut it, we'll go to backing track. And I'll never forget, they came over, we picked them up from the airport, and we had Joseph Ross, it was, who was the MD for the band. He put the band together, and they were rehearsing at a place called Rich Bitch in Selly Oak. And that was the studio and the rehearsal space at the time of the day. You know, if you were rehearsing with a big band, that's where you would go. And I always remember the guys coming out of the minibus. This is commissioned. Carl, He's walking in, and he's slightly ahead of me, but the other guys are just slightly behind. And we open the studio door, and they're in the middle of one of those songs. Carl rushes back to the others and says, "Guys, forget the backing track. These guys are on it." And I just quietly smiled to myself and thought, we've done it. So, understand the logistics. Commissioned are in Birmingham with a Birmingham band. Another watershed moment, because it's suggesting that actually you don't have to bring the big entourage where you're paying X amount of thousands of pounds, which most promoters like myself genuinely struggle to put those kind of funds together. So from a business point of view, it doesn't make sense. However, if you can put a British band together with an American band, and as long as there's mutual respect, because there's not normally that respect from the American artist with a British band. You know, if you think of Kirk's coming with his full entourage. Fred normally comes with his full entourage. And all of a sudden we broke that mold. Commission were here with the British band. And that kind of set the precedent for how I would work with American artists in the future.
If I wasn't in comedy mode, there were some great well nights, you know, Sounds of Blackness. I remember Dawkins and Dawkins. I thoroughly loved watching them.
LCGC.
Yes. What was the group from London that I really loved? The choir is gone. They've got the title like an LCGC title. Okay. I can't remember what they're called now. Yeah. But there were so many. The standard of music at the Well was unbelievable.
I'll tell you what I missed. I missed the actual opening, Welcome to the Well.
That was one of the ones I was thinking of.
Brilliant song.
Welcome to the Well.
Yeah. And Paul Ian Reid on bass. I'll never forget, he's just brilliant. He's just brilliant. And I bumped into Ian Reid in New York when he was playing for Ronnie Jordan.
Okay.
The guy's everywhere.
No, he's not. He's not.
I don't know where.
No, he's not everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
He's not everywhere.
A group, my namesakes, Dawkins and Dawkins, who were delivering these two amazing albums at the time, we managed to talk to them about what we were doing with the Well. And long story short, we managed to put a band together, headed up by Lindsay Campbell. And in fact, that became a tour. So again, and in fact, New Joys was a tour as well, because we went to Manchester and London with that. And we did the same with Dawkins and Dawkins. Because if you're going to pull that caliber of artist in, who has a fan base right across the country, it makes sense. So again, logistically, we're growing. We're understanding how to do tours now as well. So we moved. We just followed the framework and the approach that we clearly developed. And in fact, Dawkins and Dawkins took it to another level. So we went to Manchester, London, and went to Germany with Dawkins and Dawkins. And again, with Lindsay Campbell as the MD, putting that band together. And that was a great experience. And what was interesting about the Dawkins tour, by this time I'd started managing a group called New Life.
New Life were one of those groups where they were special, especially when they first started recording. Now that I found you the first release that they did with that, there was just an excitement. There was an excitement about them. There was a freshness. They were female. They were doing R&B. They didn't have your typical gospel voices, even though you heard those influences. They had people like Tony Bean working with them and stuff. And yeah, I just remember that particular concert because it was special. There's special moments in that concert where you just realise there's just such a wealth here in the Midlands.
So Brother Turner, he was our youth director at the time. He says, yes, my daughter, please do what you want to do. I've got this 53 strong choir together in no time at all. We did the youth conventions for the next couple of years. And the soloists were amazing in that group at the time. So when I'd come back, there were some younger people who were coming through the ranks now probably about 5 to 10 years younger than me in the choir. And out of that array of soloists for days, the soloists from Highgate Gospel Choir were in the choir. And then there was a few younger people, so there was some people like Estella Letman now, Stacey Bailey, she is now, Marianne Bean, she is now, and Dion Hepburn. I've just remembered all their married names. They're big people married with children and everything now, but there was just single little girls at the time.
I'm still singing on the district choir with Audrey Mattis. And so from the district choir, she handpicked 4 of us. At the time, there was myself, Stacey, Dion, Marianne. And she said, how about you entering the Teen Talent?
Oh, the Teen Talent, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Teen Talent was an annual competition in our church, New Testament Church of God, across the whole of England and Wales. We'd look for different categories of talent and poetry, dance, drama, recitations.
Misha Paris used to win on a regular basis.
Misha Paris was one of the younger people based in London at the time, and so if she was there, it was like,
forget it.
yeah, so, yeah, stuff happened. We had amazing talent. So I got 4 of the soloists from the district choir, those ladies I just mentioned, to go and do a song, which I wrote.
And so she wrote a song, and I remember every Thursday she met us at my mum's house, and we went through the song. She taught us the song, and we did that song.
Lord, I need to hear from you. Lord, I need a word from you. Da, 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 da. I wrote that.
Okay.
So taught them the song. They went to Teen Talent, boss up their place with the song, come back with the trophy.
We did that. we ended up winning.
And I said, you know what, you guys should stay together. So thinking about a name, and I can't remember who, I don't know if I coined the name, I can't remember that much, but it was New Life, basically.
That's where New Life was born, from that Teen Talent.
So they started to practice more, learning some new songs. I was encouraging them to try and do different soloing and stuff. And so they were together for many, many years, and I was their leader for the first maybe 2-3 years, and managed them. And in the sense of taking it forwards, they decided to go and ask Beres to take it forwards.
They managed to showcase at the Well before I managed them. And it was Tony Bean who says to me, look, have you ever thought about artist management? And it was a bit of a joke. Artist management, no, I don't need to do artist management. I'm more than happy with this. But Tony from 5am Records, and Michael from Musical Youth at the time, and of course Colin Bassett, who make up 5am, we decided to collaborate together and manage a group called New Life. Here we go again. Pick up a band, young girls that I'd been in church with, started to write with them, produce songs with them, and applied all of that so-called secular mainstream thinking to the music and to the production. We actually had an interest from BMG for them, because I took them down to the record company, had a meeting with BMG for New Life. And once we'd recorded the album, BMG actually thought it actually could be something we could do.
Now, those girls were phenomenal writers, songwriters, so very soon they started to get into the studio. I mean, some of the stuff that came out on their albums, like they came to the studio with the songs between myself, Novel, Tony, we'd work out chords, and literally we just lay down a foundation for them to go and do their vocals on top of. Then they'd do their vocals, and then we say, right, let's go back now and let's record it properly. And literally, some of that stuff we didn't touch. It didn't have to be touched. We just added to it. It was just the vibe and how things just developed.
I said to I think he was the vice president of Integrity, and I said to him, no disrespect, but I'm glad you've made the time to come here. But I said, my problem with Integrity and with most of you gospel labels is that you fly so many of your American artists in, you've given them the great deals in America. They come here, they do their concerts. We all go, hey, we do covers of their songs. We do support, and we all clamber to do support for you. And we all turn out to your concerts. We buy your records, we buy your CDs, and you get back on your plane and go back to America. You haven't developed anything in this country, and we've got the talent to do something. I remember the MD for Integrity here sort of shuffled in his seat, and he was like, And I could see him sort of gesturing to me to just keep it down. I thought, no. And I remember the American vice president sat there, and it must have been it couldn't have been very long, about 15 seconds of silence. And he said, thank you for that. He goes, I don't normally get told that. Because nobody normally has the gall to say it to me, but if that's how you feel and that's what's happening, let's look at what we can do. I thought, oh, great, okay. So you mean you're actually going to put some investment in? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I'm not here for a band called New Life. I'm here to try and speak for an industry that's in this country. I'm not UK gospel. I'm not trying to say I am, but I'm a representative. And I'd like to see something set up, not just for me, but for all of us to come through the door. In the end, they said they were going to put together a compilation album, which was to be the best of UK gospel. And from that compilation album, they were going to choose some of the leading artists off it to do albums.
The year I got married was 2006 in October. At this point, there was only 3 of us. We managed to win a MOBO. I guess that's one of the highlights of the group, other than meeting the Queen. Big up to Beres as well, as a manager, because we probably didn't appreciate it at the time when we were younger, but we did do a lot of things. We did go a lot of places, and to reach, you know, the Albert Hall at a MOBO Awards was a bit, because I remember finishing work that day, carrying my clothes, leaving work at 3:30, rushing to the toilet to put my makeup on, or the dress, and then the guy in charge of marketing at the time, which Mike, his name was Mike. He was part of the 5 a.m. Company. He met us outside. He met me outside my workplace. We went to pick up Mary.
Michael Keys. Keys Mike.
Young.
Yeah. Used to sing and play keys in musical youth.
Of course. I mean, how could I? So finishing work at 3:30, Mike picking me up from work, and then to run to get Marianne from work, and then we'd already changed, but we didn't have our makeup. I just remember me and Marianne looking at each other at the back of the car, thinking, we're on our way to pick up a MOBO. No, we're going to a MOBO Awards, doing our makeup in the back of the car. Just finished work, so we're kind of like, you know what I mean? It was surreal. And then going there, I think that was my first time actually experiencing the whole industry. Is sitting there, seeing Rihanna walk past. She wasn't as big as she was now. Katie Holmes and all these faces, like, and what's her name? Oh, what's her name? And she started from the church as well. Misha Paris. She was there. And she was like, oh, my babies. But yeah, it was just surreal sitting there and then seeing how things run. I guess that was my first insight into how big can this get. So I think Diane she was either just had the baby or just, you know, she was just giving birth at the time. So it was just me and Marianne and Beres in the auditorium. And so when they called New Life, we kind of sat there. No one knows us really. But clearly they do. So we got the award. And then we came back to our seat. I went to work the next morning. That's how kind of well, for me, it was kind of, did that just happen? But then I'm thinking, okay, that was the first inkling for me is what can we do more with this? And I guess in answer to your question earlier on, how did it kind of end? My only response is, I don't think it's ended, it's just life. We've all got our families, we all had babies, we all had children and stuff, careers, and life. There's no TMZ news about it. You know, somebody's looking news. No, there's no, because we're still, to this day, we're sisters. Always will be, do you know what I mean?
There's also another group, For Real, who we never did get round to recording, but they were phenomenal young male. They would have been the Commission, the Winans, the Boys to Men, all rolled into one. And again, with a lot of original material that, you know, I thought, forget Britain, which was my thinking. If this got to America, because obviously we saw America as, if this ever got to America, I knew it would have been game, set and match.
With For Real, it was an interesting time because, you know, not trying to be boastful, but I suppose we were quite innovative for that time. So as much as we were trying to do something different and trying to appeal to a younger demographic, there were still some difficulties because not everybody was on board and not everybody was ready for that. And I certainly remember, you know, some heavy criticism about what we were doing. And it was a struggle, you know, because, you know, you're a young person and you want to do a style of music that you enjoy, but at the same time, you're still conscious that you're a Christian. You don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to displease God. So you've got this struggle where you're kind of thinking, am I doing something wrong? But, you know, we were satisfied that we weren't. We were, you know, just doing what we loved. We were spreading the gospel and we were just doing it in our style and in our way.
Stop playing 24/7.
Yeah.
There's only one way to heaven. You can't enter only by the works you do. And that, if you listen to the melody, is Whitehead Brothers.
Yes, yeah. There was a lot of influence.
Your love is a 187.
Yeah.
I think For Real was definitely seen as something different because I remember one of the first shows that we did. It was just really good. The crowd responded really well to us. And we suddenly had a bit of a fan base.
You know, you try not to regret anything, but one of the things with the group as we were growing up is having more knowledge about the industry to see how we could have really expanded and really taken it. I mean, the other guys, I've got to say, I mean, I remember, I think Paul did some vocals with Peter Andre, I think it was, back in the day. Jonathan, he went on to this day doing vocals for Ollie Murs, Patrick, Sam Smith, Stormzy. You know, I was just really, I was just so grateful to be around all of that. I mean, I didn't take that path of going out and doing a lot of singing because I was focusing on my art. So, but I think it still would have been good to really understand how it could have worked out so that we could have, as a group, kind of just pushed it to the next level. And that's probably my only thing. And not to say that we couldn't still, guys.
At that time, I mean, there's a lot of people who were interested in us and wanted to record stuff and whatever. And we started And we did, we recorded a couple of tracks. I think maybe, I don't know, I think maybe we were at different places as a group. So some were ready to move forward with certain things and others weren't. I think there was just a bit of, yeah, conflict's the wrong word, because conflict sounds like as if it was negative, but I don't think we were all on the same page at the same time and in dealing with all the different things that were going on. It just didn't happen. Regrettably, it didn't happen. But we, as I said, we did record some stuff, but we didn't go far enough with it, really.
Through the Well, we managed to develop the first ever gospel radio programs. So even though there was Frank Stewart through the BBC, we managed to approach the first ever commercial radio station, and through a sponsorship by Uncle Sam Travel, we were able to sponsor Leroy Watts. So what people don't realize, Leroy Watts was a DJ on a pirate radio station doing gospel music. And I said to him, look, why don't you just, if I was able to get a sponsorship, would you come onto Galaxy Radio as it was then, back in the day? And we'd do a 2-hour show in the morning, sponsored by Uncle Sam Travel. And Leroy agreed. So what that meant was we had this 2-hour weekly show, not a monthly one, weekly gospel show where we could tell people who was coming on to the Well, and we could play some of the music, and we could play the music of gospel origin week in, week out. So from Leroy Watts, we then went on to Nikki. So Nikki was also developing, and before she went to the BBC, she was on Galaxy, and also she took over from Leroy and was doing a regular gospel program there. And in fact, at one point, myself and Nikki was a double act doing radio presenting.
97, 98, if I'm right, called Gospel Heat with Nikki Tapper. That's the program I had on Galaxy FM. And really, the beginning of my journey when it comes to gospel music, when it comes to me radio presenting it and having a show, Mary and Kirk Franklin. They were the two artists that stood out for my real entry into, you could say, R&B gospel music. I always knew that I wanted to have that edge to me. I was never going to be a traditional kind of choir-based person. I was always going to do that. But Mary was my first kind of music I loved. And then that opened the doors to Dawkins and Dawkins, because American music was coming in then. And that led to me hearing about characters called Nathan Prime and Four Corners as it developed. And then we had from Birmingham New Life, and they ended up doing really well because they came a Mobo with it. And it was just brilliant. I was a part of a little bit of that journey of exposing gospel R&B music in that way to the masses. And then I had a call from BBC local radio around the end of 2002, going into 2003, to say, look, we're changing things for us here. The presenter at the time was the late Frank Stewart, who'd been doing the gospel programme of sorts on there for years. But they were changing things around, and they'd heard me. They wanted to talk to me about that. And so, yeah, March 2003, I started at BBC local radio, covering primarily Radio WM and Coventry and Warwickshire, which is now BBC CWR. So that was my entry into radio and radio presenting gospel music.
We haven't planned the show. Yeah.
But I think that what our strength was and is the fact that we spontaneously interact with the audience. I've got a clue. The last thing we did, the last performance we did in Birmingham, one of my favourite moments where we introduced, we came on stage, Clive went on stage first, and you identified two French young ladies from France.
Yeah. French from France, fancy that?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Two young ladies from France, again going back to Christine, the Sinclairs, nieces. And
you're trying to recreate it?
And
what
yeah,
happened?
sure,
What happened?
It
So I said, welcome to so-and-so from France. And it's so good that you're from France because Donald is fluent in French.
And I hadn't a clue that they were in the audience. And as soon as Clive said that, I said, ah, bonjour, je te connais,
He says he's very glad to see you at tonight's show and we hope you have a good time.
And then I went down the steps and I was trying to pose like big. Je voudrais, j'ai le grand physique, le mot, je te connais.
He's been grinding his physique for many days.
J'ai le droite et gauche et droite et le minique c'est magnifique.
Him say yes.
Je rentre les là, je prends le petit les mots vous jouez autre et je d'autres les après. Je folie magnifique sur ton.
Me don't know why him say. Yeah.
And
the crowd went ballistic.
But no, here's the thing. They said, "Did you plan that?"
No. We didn't even know they were going to be there. And that's really when you see, if you've seen Trio perform, if you've seen us at the Well, I will guarantee anything that you've seen, apart from some jokes that we have which are in our kit back, none of it's planned. How many times did we rehearse in 40 years? How many times? This is the honest truth. How many times did we rehearse in 40 years?
Maybe 2 or 3 times when we were getting ready for our shows.
Yeah.
But that's probably like if hardly.
2 or 3 times in 40 years.
Conventions, we do massive conventions every year. And I don't mean like a little 50, 75 people. Hundreds and thousands of us would congregate in Leicester and Brighton and different parts of the country. On a regular, at least 2 of those a year. That's hotels, breakfast in hotels. Who was living that kind of life? We were living the dream. So church wasn't a restrictive experience for me. And also, there was guys.
It was a restrictive experience still.
Lots of guys. So it was cool for me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's the truth.
But that's all part of growing up, isn't it? So conventions and hanging out at conventions, the social aspect of all of that stuff, meeting up with people from linking with people and knowing people from Wales and all over the place, everywhere, made a big difference. The concerts. Now I want to talk about this though. Sorry. So we did Refreshing Rain, and I went to school, same school as you, and then and also Sharon. And then the expectation was that I was going to do the choir in it. What happened?
Okay, I don't know.
I said, I'm not doing no choir. I'm joining the hip hop group. Get out of here. And that's exactly what happened.
I used to wait till it was bedtime because a lot of people have gone off your dial-up internet, and there's only one phone port in the house, so you'd have to get this extension lead really out into my little recording studio, hook up the lead, dial up, order the album, press download. It might be a 16-track album. The next morning, I was so happy saying to my wife, I said, Elizabeth, I've got 8 tracks out of 16. I'll get the other 8 tonight. And I was happy. 8 tracks, 8 hours. Dial-up internet. I just share that story because I think people don't realise how blessed they are nowadays, where you can go and get an album and have it sitting on your hard drive in seconds.